Welcome back to part 3 of our Santa's Gathering stocking. As you can see, the snowman is largely finished, not completely. He still needs a part of his scarf and another arm, but he has come along. He is so cute. They do say if you want to put some blush on their cheeks, and I always do that when they suggest that. I just think that's such a fun little piece that you can do that just adds so much, and it'll be in the description, a link to where you can get it. It is just simply a chalk marking pencil for sewing, and you just rub it on the cheeks in the area where it looks appropriate. I always use the picture and consult the picture to do that accurately. And here you can see the snowman is finished. He has this beautiful little cardinal on his hand who has landed to visit him, and Santa is there. And you can see his arm is pinned. It's not finished. I am working on that candy cane, which needed to be attached to his arm before his arm was attached to the stocking. And you can see, I just think this is the most darling little reindeer. The faces on this stocking are very much like, I think, like a cartoon or a coloring book, and I just think that makes them look so animated and just so much fun. Now, the candy cane is stuffed with a chenille stick or a pipe cleaner. I always keep those in my box. You can see the snowflakes are just pinned on here. The reindeer's legs are also stuffed with pipe cleaner or chenille sticks. There is a particular pipe cleaner that I prefer to use. That also will be linked in the description. The pipe cleaners that I use are real pipe cleaners for real pipes. They're not terribly fuzzy, and that helps me to get them inside of these small, narrow spaces that they need to be. Here you can see is the back of the stocking. I have finished it, and according to one great viewer who let me know that my pieces that are unironed can be really distracting with the wrinkles. See, I tried there, and my iron was just a smidge too hot. It did stick a little bit, but only for a moment. So a press cloth, a thin press cloth, which I use just a thin dish towel, or some kind of a tea towel you can use. And I have my iron set on silk setting, which for me is a very low setting. It's not as low as it can go, but it's pretty low. And it does give me a little bit of steam on occasion. You can see that's so much better, but there's still a couple of places that you need to address with a couple extra passes with the iron, because especially on the back of the stocking, it can be folded and in my kit box for quite some time, where the front of the stocking gets cut out and is being manipulated and having things put on it, and rarely do I feel like I need to iron the front. But if you want to iron the front, and I will iron the front in the future so that those creases are not distracting to you when you're watching the videos, but the ironing needs to be very light. And here you can see on the stocking there is a crease kind of in the center of the top. It's where a name would go, but this particular stocking is for an infant that is not yet born, so we don't have a name to put on this stocking yet. You can see it up there. So I do want to press that area. Every place else on the stocking seems to be kind of, I don't know, it gets kind of smoothed out by the time you add pieces and stuffing and all that stuff. But this top piece needs a couple of passes again with the iron and with the press cloth. If you're going to press your piece, like say for instance the front of the stocking that you're going to be applying things to, make sure you do it from the back side. You don't want any of those indication paint lines to disappear with your ironing. And so you are using a low heat iron, and you are using the press cloth and flipping over your piece so that the paint side is down. You can see I have this woolen ironing mat. That works really great for me not to have to get out the whole ironing board. And I can iron here just right on my table where I'm able to use the camera. So here is the lining. That's the last bit I have to do. After I cut out the back of the stocking and press it, then I lay it on the fabric, and that as my pattern piece. And now I have added about an inch to the top of the piece because I need to be able to fold that down. And then now as I cut it, I'm going to cut about 1/4 of an inch wider than the line. So about 1/4 of an inch away farther out, and that's for my seam allowance. I will be sewing this up on my serger. If you don't have a serger, there are no worries. You can sew this on a regular sewing machine just with a regular stitch. All you need really is to connect the two pieces together. But I do cut it, like I said, about 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch wider than my line. Again, for my seam allowance. You can leave a little bit more if you want. It's not precise, and you'll see when I put it down inside the stocking, I have a lot of room to be able to adjust it if it's not precise. However, I feel it's far easier to adjust it if it's a bit too large. I've never cut it where it was too small. I don't know what that would bring. That would really be a challenge. So I always choose to err on the side of too big than too small, because I can always take a little tuck in the seam to fit it if it's too big. Now you can see I checked my fabric. This fabric is a right side and a wrong side. Not all fabric is. Some is both, the same on both sides. So I need to put right side to right side together. That means that when you open the stocking and look inside, you see the right side of the fabric, and the wrong side of the fabric is against the felt. So here you can see I have sewn the back and front of the stocking together with a simple seamstress back stitch. I have attached the tab. I do that with real secure, kind of make a box with an X in it to make sure that that tab is going to stay. Now, with the right side inside, the right side of the fabric facing one another on the inside, you need to put your hand all the way down in the lining and stick that lining all the way down into the toe. Make sure you get it in the toe really well and hang on to it as you work your hand out. You also want to get the heel really good and tight down in there in the heel section. Now you can see I have a far more than 1 inch at the top, so I don't know what I was doing when I was marking my about an inch, but it was kind of more than that. But you do want to make sure that you get that well down in there. Make sure you've got it really all the way down into the toe. You want it to be the lining will be what carries the weight of anything that goes into the stocking, as opposed to your stitching that is what held the front and the back together. Now you just turn under whatever excess fabric you have at the top, and you line up the two seams. I want my side seams to match exactly with the side seams of the stocking, and I'm going to find that place and pin that there, and then I can adjust one way or the other if I need to. And I do need to make sure that I've got this all the way down in the stocking, so that there's no gap at the toe or at the heel of the stocking that the lining is going to take. And then again, like I said, pin the 2 side seams right to the side seams of the stocking. That'll ensure that your lining doesn't twist. So, excuse my allergies. It's a bad time of year here. It is not Christmas season. But, so yeah, I just give it a pin there. And then I can go along the front and the back, pinning it. And I try to have, about 1/4 of an inch. I don't want the lining to be visible when the stocking is hanging. So I do place it about 1/4 of an inch below the edge, the top edge of the stocking. This also gives me a little bit of room to stitch and keeps the lining from twisting or shifting. I will be stitching the lining all the way around, not just on the side seams, but I will give the side seams a little extra stitching because I feel that that's where most of the stress is going to lie. And as you can see this time, my lining really fit exactly. If you have any extra right there when you get to that side seam, that's where you just take a little tuck, just a tiny little tuck, and stitch that down right in the side seam, and it will give you just a little bit of extra, a little bit of room, a little bit of give. But again, now here I'm just pinning down about 1/4 of an inch from the top, maybe a little less. I don't know. I'm not very good at judging distance or anything. So, but leaving a little bit so that when the stocking is hanging, it is not, the lining is not visible, because it's not really a part of the craft. It's not a part of the beauty of the stocking. And I chose here this light white with tiny red polka dots because the stocking is so light. Primarily so much of the stocking is white or the light blue. I have some other lining fabrics that I use. Some is a kind of the green, like the green trees, and it's got some, I don't know, snowflakes or something on it. But I didn't want to do that. I did not want the lining to detract from the face of the stocking. And the felt can be, I don't want to call it see-through. It's not really see-through. But if you had a dark fabric, a red or the dark green that I could have chosen, I think it would have been visible through the white areas or the light blue areas of the stocking. And that's not the idea. So here I'm just getting myself out a single strand of white floss. I am going to use that to stitch down with an invisible stitch. It's sometimes a hem stitch, and I will use that to stitch down the back with the white, and then I'll change to the light blue floss to stitch the front, because my stitches do slightly come to the front side of the felt. I don't want to not go all the way through and have something in the stocking pull the lining away from the felt, because the thread is just pulled right through the felt. Felt, because it doesn't have a weave, can do that. So I do go through the felt all the way, but with a very, very tiny stitch. You'll see here. I start at the side seam of the back, and I'm going to sandwich my knot between the lining and the felt. So I'm going to go through just the lining here and sandwich that knot right inside the lining and the felt. Now I'm going to take a couple of just regular straight stitches right into that seam to try to really secure the lining to that side seam. I think that's where most of the stress would be, and so I want to give it a little extra support. And as you can see, pins are always wonderful. You need them and you love them to hold stuff in place, but boy, can they be a pain. So I'm going to, this blind stitch, I'm going to put my needle through. You can see my hand is behind. So right here, go through the felt until you feel the needle touch your finger. And you just want to take a tiny bite of that felt, but all the way through. And then bring your needle into the fold of the fabric that you turned down, and so that your stitch is really hidden in the fold of the fabric. All you're going to have on the back side, for instance here, are little tiny dimples of where your stitch went through to the back side when you feel it with your finger, when you feel the needle touch your finger. I'm not poking myself, I'm not bleeding, I'm nothing like that. I can feel the needle touch my finger, and then I know I've made it all the way through the felt. So you can really hardly see it. You always want to make sure that you're matching as best as you can. But again, a tiny bite of the felt and then a small bite through the fold of the fabric, and then just pull it tight. And again, taut but not tight. Since this is a kind of a running stitch, if you pull too hard, you'll see it kind of bunch or gather up, and you certainly don't want that to happen with your stocking or with your lining. So make sure it still remains flat. That's why the pins are so helpful, but that doesn't stop them from catching your thread and causing challenges just because they're helpful. So that's why you can see me pull them out as soon as I can. As soon as they are no longer of use, I like to get them out of there because they are so prone to tangling up with your thread. And you just keep going this way all the way across. Now, should your front and your back both be of white, you could go all the way around. But because my front of my stocking, the top there, is blue, I want to stop my white stitches when I come to the side seam, and then change to blue when I come around to the front. And again here, you just keep going with that little bite and then into the fold of the fabric and pulling it through. And it doesn't really, it's not a very long seam really, or I guess you'd call it a hem kind of in the lining, but it's kind of meditative for me. I just love hand sewing. So here you can see I finished the back side with the white. Now I'm in the side seam, and I'm going to do those couple of straight stitches there in the side seam, and then get my knot to end my white floss so that I can change to the blue. And just because you've gotten that side done doesn't mean the yarn or the floss stops tangling. It still tangles. It's just part of the dang deal, so it's okay. Oh, it even catches on your thread sorter and your needle holder, pins and needle holder. So again, just knotting securely in that side seam and making sure that the lining is going to stay secure and it's not going to be too obvious because it's in the side seam. That's a great place to kind of just hide your stitches, your knots, anything else like that. Now we're going to come back and get the blue floss and do exactly the same thing on the front of the stocking with blue floss so that it is not visible. You will see when it's done, and you'll get a good look when things are done here, that it does dimple across the top there. It's just part of sewing that you're going to get a little bit of that dimpling. I think that if you only went partially through the felt and then avoided the dimples, you would really run the risk of your stitches pulling totally out of the felt if anything was stressing that lining at all. So I think the dimples are a necessary evil that are really not distracting in the long run from your whole stocking. And again, if you're going to place a name on the stocking, it's going to be up there really distracting you from those stitches totally. This stocking, I don't know if I said it before or not, but this stocking is being made for a family that is expecting a baby. And this woman I've made, by the time I finish the 3 stockings that I am working on for her, I will have made 7 stockings for her family. There's one other family that I've made 7 stockings for as well. So most of the time I make 3 or 4, and that's for a family. But it is fun. And I truly believe the families really enjoy this gift. And it's a gift that truly lasts a lifetime. I know that my children, I made a stocking for each one of them. I usually picked it out and started it before they were born, but there were many times when it wasn't finished until they were maybe 2 or so. It just depended. And we hung up some other kind of sock until I got it done. But my children's stockings I still hang up every year. And the ones that have moved out of the house have selected a stocking for themselves, and I have made it for them, and that is their adult stocking, and they hang those in their houses now. So it's a gift that kind of becomes a part of your family tradition that can really last a lifetime, and I hope that the work that I'm doing is competent enough to endure. Our oldest child has turned 40, and his stocking, although a little faded because he's the oldest, his was always on the end somewhere, and being in the Southwest, the sunshine coming in my windows, although we have wonderful air conditioning, it's not too hot, it can affect fabrics and things that are in the way. So his is a little bit faded, but we still hang it up, and it just adds to the character of his stocking. And I have suggested to my husband, let me make him a new stocking. I even bought a kit to make for him, and my husband said, no, this is his stocking. This is the stocking that was always his. You can't make a new one and have it be for him. So I didn't, but I did make that other stocking, and it ended up being for a grandson. So they stay in the family usually, although I've made so many stockings, I've lost count in all honesty. And now if I'm not making them as a special order, like this one and the other 2 that I'm making as well, then I make them and put them up at my website or in my Etsy shop for purchase. So I know that a lot of people feel that the price of a stocking is a little bit exorbitant, but those of you, I think, that watch these videos know what goes into it. This stocking, I believe, had 91 pieces. The next stocking I'm working on has 100. I've done several that are in the 160s, 170 pieces. I kind of judged the difficulty by the number of pieces. And I can tell you that when I got myself an app on my phone that I turn on every time I sit down to work on a project that is for a paying customer, and I clock the time. And the average time for me to do a stocking of about 100 pieces is 40 hours, total work from start to finish is 40 hours, and that's an average. Again, it's sometimes they're more, sometimes they're slightly less, but not usually much less. So, if you talk to somebody and you say, I'm charging $150 plus the cost of the kit and the shipping, they think, oh, that's too much. Well, how do you feel about making $150 for a week's worth of work? That's not much. So, and I'm aware that crafting and needlework rarely would come in line with a hourly paying job. People won't pay for it, and that's fine. I understand that because I get such great pleasure just in doing it. But it does take a significant amount of time, and it is worth what you're paying, especially when you think, this item, this is going to be a part of your Christmas, and that whoever you're giving it to, it's going to be a part of their Christmas for the rest of their life, probably. And who knows what'll happen after that. We hope it'll go beyond. But so it is a gift that lasts a lifetime. Not too many things do anymore, but this one does. And so it is a wonderful gift. And it does have to be done well for it to last, I think. So I have sold a number of my stocking kits. Like I said, this person, these 3 that I'm making now, it will be a total of 7 for their family. Another family, I've made 7. And then some other families, I've made 3 and 4. I have sold stockings here and there to just strangers that contacted me through my website or over Etsy and wanted to purchase one of the stockings. One family, it was so sweet. They were having everyone over for Thanksgiving, and they wanted to have the stockings out because that was how they were telling their family the sex and the name of the baby they were expecting. So I thought that was a really sweet way to do it, and kind of fun. I know that one of my daughters told us the sex of her sister's child with glitter, and I can tell you, although that was very fun, and thankfully we were outside, I think a stocking is a little better. I like the stocking idea a little better. But again, you have to know ahead of time because, like I said, I can turn out when pressed, when it's necessary, 1 stocking a month. So my record right now is 11 stockings in a year and a set of 6 ornaments. So I can do 10 or 12 in a year, but that's really pushing it, and that's doing it at every moment I can find to do it. So here we go. We're done with stitching the lining in. We'll get back on topic here and quit my blah blah blahing. And you can see here at the top that the stitching is barely noticeable, really barely noticeable, especially from any distance at all. So there it is. It's all done. Again, little tiny bits of dimpling, tiny bits, but the lining not rising up or showing above the top of the stocking. So here it is. It's finished. Oh, except for one thing I almost forgot. I always put in one of my labels if I'm making it for someone who's not family. Family, I think they know who made it, so I don't put that in. But this is, and it says, I'll bring it over closer where we can see it, and it says, it's hard to read, it's very light. I didn't want it to be in people's face. Made prayerfully for you by Servant Crafts. So that way, if somebody had a question or they needed something, needed a repair, they would have the name Servant Crafts that they could Google and hopefully find me, and I could help them out either with another order of another stocking, or with a repair, or with help in any way. And I do get a lot of folks, especially from my YouTube channel, asking for help, asking questions, wanting to know how to do this or that. And that's really the point of this channel. That's what I'm here for. But if you have a kit, and I've done this multiple times now, the kits look so darling. And in your mind, they look so simple. And nowhere on the outside of the kit do they tell you how many pieces this is. Once you get the kit and you open it up and you start to read some of the instructions, I think many people find that overwhelming. And I've had people start a stocking or a project, and I've had people not even start it, but just open it and realize, oh, this is not something I can do. And then they contact me, and I'm happy to make it for them. This little reindeer is, I just think, so darling. You do put the wreath around his neck before you attach his head, so the wreath cannot fall off, even though his head is really loose and very 3D against it. So we hope that you have enjoyed this video, and that you come back and see us again for another stocking. We will be starting another brand new stocking soon. So God bless your day, and have a wonderful day.